Good morning. Hey, thank you all for coming out here this morning. I really appreciate you being here. I've honestly been excited and looking forward and giving spoilers about this morning's announcement to people for weeks and weeks. Thank you so much, Catherine. We have an incredible library director in Catherine Pinkert who's come with just this spirit of innovation and bringing just a new energy to our library. Would you give a round of applause to our library director one more time? It's been said before, but the St. Paul Public Library would not be the St. Paul Public Library system we know without our incredible Friends organization that does such a wonderful job supporting our work citywide and actually does such a great job. They actually provide advice for Friends organizations all over the country on how to do it. So give one more round of applause, would you please, for Beth Burns and our Friends organization. And all of the board, because we have a bunch of board members of the Friends in the audience as well. So thank you for being here as well. And to Council Member Prince, thank you for being here. All of your colleagues on the City Council, it's wonderful to see you all here. And I appreciate our passionate dedication towards having our library system. You know, I'm excited to be here. My wife, Dr. Sakina Futrell, and I, yes, please give her a round of applause. I have learned to introduce myself as the First Lady's husband. And that is so true. So thank you for your support, as well as my parents being here as well. It's good to see you guys. My father in the back and my mother, Ramsey County Commissioner Tony Carter, here as well. And I also have to just give acknowledgement before I start to our incredible budget team at the city. Let me tell you, we have spent hours upon hours, day in and day out, just poring over this city budget, poring over this budget proposal that we presented to the council. And our city budget staff has worked with me just tirelessly, not only doing that, but we also, I know some of you guys attended these budget events that we had across the city, and we had many days where we literally spent all day long from 8 a.m. to like 5:15-ish p.m. In a boardroom working on the budget, and everybody had to leave to hurry up and get to one of our budget events by 5:30 or 6 o'clock or something like that. And I just really appreciate, would the budget team, would you just wave your hand and would you guys just go nuts for them one time? So there is no institution in the history of humankind that has represented the free-flowing exchange of ideas and information and education more powerfully than the library has. In this very space right here, we see that our library isn't just a collection of books. It's so much more than that. People come into our St. Paul Public Libraries every single day to check out books, to check out media, for homework help, to build a resume, to look for a job, to attend one of the community events that's happening in this room right here every single day. This is a center of community, and it has to be so. Our St. Paul Public Library is so at the center of our dream and our quest to build a city that works for all of us. Our public library is at the center of all three of our core pillars of our administration. Public safety, because we know this is where we want our young people to be. And one thing that I've learned as a parent is the best way to get my children to stop doing something I don't want them to do is to give them something I do want them to do. I know all the parents in the room are nodding their heads. It's at the center of our dream to just establish an ethic in this city of lifelong learning to ensure that we're connecting children and families and workers to opportunity for the future through the promise of a great education and free learning exchange of ideas and information. And it's totally at the center of our dream of and our third pillar of economic justice and inclusion, because people come here every day to look up ideas for their business that they want to start, to find out if something has been patented, or just coming here in the springtime to do their taxes. These are spaces that are centers of community, and they are critical. What I love about the library is that between the covers of a good library book, every single child in every single part of our city can travel the world from the bottom of the ocean to the edge of the galaxy and back for free. But you know what? That's not really the case. They can't necessarily all do it for free. We have, libraries across the country have built a practice of fining people, of imposing late fines, of imposing overdue fines. And all of us have them. As we've talked about this problem of fines and all the challenges that they create for our community, I've talked to senior leaders in the city, I've talked to library staff, and I've certainly talked to a whole lot of people at our budget events around the city who have admitted, somewhat embarrassingly, I haven't been to the library in years because I have late fees. There's even a Shel Silverstein poem about it, which I won't try to recite for you today. I appreciate those stories. You know, right now in St. Paul, 51,000 St. Paul library card holders have their library checkout rights revoked because of late fees, dating back to 2009. Late fees that can be as little as $10, but average $33 on average. I've heard from you that the library is at the center of our vision of building a city that works for all of us. I've heard from you that it doesn't sit right with us, that students whose parents can't afford a $12 late fee will get locked out of the St. Paul Public Library and locked out of the ability to check out a book. I've heard from you. I've heard from people all over the city, and I've definitely heard it from our librarians, from our library staff who spend their time every single day serving those families. I want to just introduce to you two members of our St. Paul Public Library staff who have shared with me stories about just their work and how they are impacted about, you know, engaging families as far as checking out books, and families who want to be able to use our libraries and are not able to because of late fines. The first person I would like to introduce is Ellis Evans, a customer service assistant with our library. It's great to see you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Ellis, and I work for Merriam Park Library. In my experience, fines can limit patrons that do not have spare time or income and therefore restrict access to those with the greatest need of library resources. For instance, a woman came into Merriam one day. She had just come back from a long trip and had been unable to renew and return her items. Due to this, she had fines over $10 and therefore she was unable to continue to use her card. Once she shared her story and stress, I spoke with the supervisor in charge and was able to have her fines waived. I clearly remember the smile on her face as she expressed her love for our library. This interaction stuck with me because in this moment, I realized that some must make the choice between access to library materials or a bus card, a meal, school supplies, bills, etc. Negotiating fines can empower patrons by meeting them where they're at rather than limiting access due to the circumstances out of their control. Thank you.
AJ Ragland.
Hi, I am AJ Ragland. I work at the Arlington Hills Library. In my experience, the fine system creates a ripple effect amongst families. Starting as young as, well, when you can, however young you can get a child to have a library card, very young, in fact. What tends to happen is you'll have families who have, someone has a fine on their card, a parent might have a fine on their card, but they want to use the library, they want to come in, they want their kids to be able to check out books, they want to be able to educate themselves, and so they may make a family member a library card for the whole family. And then there might be a fine on that. That kid gets older, and now they have fines, and they want to do the same. They want to use their library card, but they can't because of this system that just really, at the end of the day, only affects low income, fines aren't a big deal if you have the money to pay fines. And so what we're seeing is these low income neighborhoods, the ones that I want to be able to use the library the most, being affected by this the most. And that's just wrong. This will change lives in a way that I don't even think that we can understand yet. This will be so incredible. If you've never had to turn down a kid, which we get some of the cutest kids at Arlington, if you've never had to turn down a child and tell them that they can't educate themselves, they can't use the library because of their family's economic status, it's a terrible feeling. So I thank the mayor, and I thank you guys for this moment to speak on this, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, AJ. And Pang Yang.
Hi everyone, you guys might have to like crouch a little bit so the people in the back can see me. Anyways, thank you all for making it out here so early in the morning. It's not really that early, but thank you for skipping whatever you guys are usually doing in the morning. Hello everyone, my name is Pang. I'm the Community Services Coordinator for the St. Paul Public Library. And I have worked at every single library in St. Paul, so in my almost 14 years, including the bookmobile. In my current position, I coordinate citywide programs and services outside and inside of libraries. Sometimes it's at laundromats, sometimes it's at public housing complexes, sometimes it's at assisted living complexes and correctional facilities, the list goes on and on. One anecdote that I wanted to share with you guys was that just earlier this spring, a mother came into the library with her 3 kids. So they were about 6, 3, and a 6-month-old. She had fines probably from when she was a teenager. The books looked like it was for a research project that she had at school, that she returned late, and this was from several years ago. Since then, she hasn't come into the library at all. As I was telling her about the fines, I could physically see the anxiety just take over her body. I could tell she was embarrassed, and that day, all she was trying to do was check out books for her young daughter who was starting school. And she looked really excited to start pre-K too. She was like, like, you know, just imagine the energy that like a 6-year-old has. And then what I saw after that just was completely dreadful because she crouched over and she was talking to her daughter about dinner. And they were talking about what they were gonna eat and letting the girl decide like what they wanted to spend their money on. Families shouldn't have to negotiate with each other about what they should feed, whether it's their bellies or their brain, because both are really important and both need nourishment. So thank you all.
Thank you so much. Can you give one more round of applause for all 3 of them? Thank you so much for sharing your stories. You know, I hope you felt the way I felt when they were sharing those stories. Those disturbing stories are a painful part of our past, but they don't have to be a part of our future. I'm asking our city council to reactivate 51,000 library cards by taking action to write off $2.5 million of uncollectible library debt in late fines and fees effective immediately so that we can truly welcome everyone back into our libraries. That'll unlock the doors of our libraries so that we can truly say that everyone in our community is welcome in the St. Paul Public Library, and that every member of our community can afford to check out a library book in the St. Paul Public Library. But you know what? We can do even better than that. Every year we count on library fines, on overdue fines, to help us fund about just over $200,000 in our collections budget for library collections. My budget proposal that I presented to the City Council last week, earlier this month, if you were there, you maybe remember me teasing that I was really excited to tell you what we're doing with our library. My budget proposal asks our City Council, acting as our library board, to fund $215,000 in additional investment into our library collections budget so that we can end the practice of late fees, late fines completely in the St. Paul Public Library. We are unlocking the doors to this library. We're unlocking the doors to information and exchange. Like I said at the beginning, our libraries are our core image of the free exchange of information and ideas. The library is so much more than a collection of books. It's a community for people, and all of our people in our communities are welcome in our St. Paul Public Library. I want to tell you about one other thing I'm excited about, and I'll let you go about your way. We are excited to say we're not just unlocking the doors to our libraries and welcoming people in. We are pushing the limit on what our libraries are and the role our library plays in our communities. In my budget address, I announced that we want to invest $71 million over the next 3 years in housing to ensure that every St. Paulite, every St. Paul family can afford to live with dignity in our city. Thank you. That's a big investment. And that's going to take more than just the mayor and more than just the city council. It's going to take all of us doing our part to say that's what we have to do as a community, because we know that the housing crisis that we face and the challenges that creates for our city create challenges in every classroom in St. Paul, in every workplace in St. Paul, and in every corner of our city and in every single neighborhood. We have to stand up and forward to that challenge, and that's going to take every single one of us. Our library has got to be at the center of us pushing our collective consciousness. After I was sworn in, I told Catherine Pinkert, our library director, that I'd love to see us do like a St. Paul book club where we can come together to think about big ideas and push our collective consciousness intentionally toward the direction of the future that we're building for our city. Thankfully, we already have in our city an incredible program in Read Brave, through which St. Paul students, St. Paul families, St. Paul book clubs have come together around one book for the past 6 years straight. We're excited to continue that program and to expand on it by saying from now on, Read Brave St. Paul won't just be something that we use to come together around a book. We're going to use it to come together intentionally around ideas. And so this year, we've expanded Read Brave from 1 book to 4 books that are all centered around a big theme: housing. That's important. Our librarians, our library staff have curated for us a list of 4 books: a children's book, a picture book, a young adult novel, and a nonfiction book that are all centered around housing, so that in our community we can have the same conversation. We can have one conversation in our preschools, in our middle schools, in our workplaces, and in our senior homes. We can have one conversation together about the importance of housing and housing issues as we push ourselves to build St. Paul for a future that works for all of us. I'm so excited about this. And Liz is like Facebook Living, I think, and I'm taking my paper from her. Our primary Read Brave book is a young adult novel, a fiction novel titled Burn, Baby Burn by Meg Medina. It's set in Queens in 1976. It tells the story of a young Cuban-American teenager finding her place in a city where residents experience violence, racial tension, and housing insecurity. Our adult nonfiction Read Brave book is Evicted by Matthew Desmond. I know a number of you have heard of that book. And we're currently vetting both a middle grade read and a picture book for young children so our entire families can read Brave about housing together. I am excited about the promise that Read Brave provides for us, for the opportunity for us to work together, to think together, to engage and to plant more and more reading clubs and book clubs across our city so that we can together not just push our knowledge, but push our collective will to do something about a crisis that we are facing in our city. Please join me in thanking the folks who are working together to help us make Read Brave possible. Several partners have signed on. I'm getting to it. I want to thank the Catherine B. Anderson Fund of the St. Paul Foundation, with special thanks to Paul Verrett and John Westrom. I definitely want to thank Gene Crane and Aaron Dady at Brimmer Bank, which have recently signed on as a Read Brave sponsor. And also Holly Weinkoff at Red Balloon Bookshop. The library and other community partners, along with our fantastic Library Friends organization, will work together to host Read Brave events and connect people around these 4 books between October and February, which will culminate in a visit to St. Paul by Meg Medina, the author of our young adult novel. We are so excited about this. We invite you to come and join us. I know we have copies of the book here. We'll have copies of the book in all of our libraries, and we are excited to continue to push the envelope of what a library means for all of us. This banner, "Welcome Back to Your Library," will be flown at every single St. Paul Public Library to make sure that everyone knows that every single person, every single child, every single family in our city and our communities are welcome in our St. Paul Public Library. So I appreciate you being here, and I'm asking, I think we have some big scissors. I will chew this ribbon down if I need to. But we are here together. We are here together to celebrate the grand reopening. I know. We are here together to celebrate the grand reopening of the St. Paul Public Library, the grand reopening of the kind of free exchange of information that libraries have represented for 1,000 years, and to celebrate in particular the grand reopening of the St. Paul Public Library to 51,000 students, seniors, parents, families, workers who have been locked out of our St. Paul Public Library for far too long. I'm going to ask our library staff who came and shared those stories with us to come and cut the ribbon with me.